Right, I am here today with the amazing Ismael Perez. And Ismael, what a bio you've got. I mean, you're an author, you're a cosmic ambassador, a galactic historian, and really today we've got so much to talk about. I've listened to your brilliant interviews with Nick Venyarmin, Janine. You've got a brilliant Instagram channel as well, and obviously all your links will be below. And you've been talking about everything from DNA activation, starseeds, the role of artificial intelligence, the solar flash. I'm sure we'll touch on a lot of these things today. But one of the things that really fascinates me is, with all this information that you've gathered, Ismael, how we use it to move forward and make the right decisions about, one, how we can all help in whatever way possible, but also it means what we can prepare for. But before we launch into all that, how are you? Because you've been a very busy man, having come out of a long time sort of away from the spotlight. Now you are really sharing your knowledge on all sorts of platforms, aren't you?
Yes, it's been a great ride for me. I took 25 years of my life from the age of 19 till the age of 42 to just focus on my inner journey, my self-discovery, research, investigation, to the point where I was obsessed with data and knowledge, 10, 12 hours a day. I used to read for many years. And I think that, it was all orchestrated for a purpose, because not everybody has the opportunity to do the research. So I felt like I was doing a service to humanity by sacrificing my life in general, because my buddies would always say, why don't you ever go out? You're only 20 years old. People your age are having the life right now, And I would tell them, I'm sorry, I feel like my purpose here is greater than just going to the local bar, or to the local club, or to the local hangout. I'm just going to stick with my my inner calling. And so I think it's paying off now, but being a hermit for 25 years is actually now paying off. I feel like the world is ready for this higher level knowledge, because of the times that we're living in. And so I think everything was orchestrated by even beings that are beyond me. So I've always told people, I felt like an instrument. I've always felt like I was being used by something greater than me to bring forth this higher understanding and make sense of things, because we're living in a time where there's so much confusion. I mean, we have disinformation campaigns. We have, everything that people want to know about the exopolitical situation regarding aliens or extraterrestrials. Is, it's like, who do you trust with the right information? Who's channeling the right information and who's getting misinformation? And it's just like one of those things where it's like, how do you put everything into perspective? And so I felt like, my work is really doing, is helping in that regard. It's helping put things into perspective, so that people could see the bigger picture and why things are happening at this point in time, why things are unfolding the way they are. The agenda, it goes beyond our world. We're in the middle of a cosmic scenario that has been going on for billions of years, and that scenario is now coming to fruition with victory of the light. Thank God.
Yeah, wow, it's so amazing what you just said there, Ishmael, because it is, you as you say, you really are on point at the moment, because so many people, everyone's at different levels of understanding, awareness, feeling and seeing different things. And one of the things that you just touched on there about information and who to trust, because a lot of people who's watching channels like mine and watching your information, they've realized that they can't trust the mainstream, but equally now they're substituting that for alternative sources, and questions are being asked there as well. And one of the things I heard you say, I think it was on one of your Instagram posts, was that the heart doesn't lie. So should we start with, what is a starseed in your opinion? And how does a starseed sort of get their information and determine whether it's from a good source?
Starseeds are the most advanced souls in the multiverse that chose to come at this time to help the planet ascend. So they were volunteer in a way where, we have now millions upon millions of starseeds in their adult years. Of course, a lot of the new crystalline indigo children are being born. One out of every third child now is crystalline. So as we prepare to move into this higher, level of reality. So yeah, that's what a starseed is. It's a volunteered soul that came from the higher dimensions beyond the fifth. Most people think that they're coming from the fifth dimensional level of reality, but That's the majority of the starseeds, but we also have a great deal of starseeds, or a number of starseeds that are coming from the 6th dimension all the way from the 12th dimension, which is amazing. So, there's different terms to describe the starseeds. Some people call them indigo children, rainbow children, crystal children. These are all different terminologies that I guess mediums and teachers, spiritual teachers have labeled these higher evolved beings that are now living among us. The first wave of starseeds came in the 50s and 60s, which means that they're now in their 50s and 60s. And the second wave came during the 70s and 80s. Those starseeds are now anywhere from 35 to about 48. And then the last wave has been coming in since 2000, and they've just been coming in like crazy. So that's what a starseed is. It's a higher evolved soul that decided to regress back into the 3rd dimension in an avatar form while operating still from higher levels of reality. Because see, the starseed is how can I say it? They're multidimensional. Everyone's multidimensional, but they, again, these are souls that have already reached higher levels of reality. So in that regard, only a rather small portion of their consciousness incarnated into this avatar in order to be the boots on the ground and kind of like work the system from within as the busters of the old paradigm that hasn't been working for thousands of years, in order to anchor in the new high energy vibrations that are bringing the world into a better reality and a better world structure. So, the starseeds have been doing their job just by merely existing, because they exert a type of frequency that is very transmutive when it comes to lower, denser energies. And so that's who they are. They're multidimensional beings that are still operating from the higher dimensions with only a small portion of their consciousness incarnating at this time, while forgetting who they were, of course, forgetting their galactic self and their higher self, over self, Christ self. But, in turn, in time, those memories are soon going to be coming back.
Do anyone would think we planned this, Ismael, because that leads so perfectly on to my next question about, so there's all this talk about when we incarnate, starseeds and non-starseeds into this current reality, that we forget a lot. So in one respect, there's the fact that we're here to learn lessons, evolve, move up to higher levels of consciousness. So why would the greater beings or the process work that we would forget some of that knowledge when we come back in? Because surely then there's a danger of making the same mistakes over and over again. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. And, we actually all agreed to forget. That was the primary reason why we incarnated, was to forget who we were so that we could actually learn from the limitations of being mortal and being human. Because in the higher dimensions, we have an immortal avatar. We don't see death the way the humans on Earth see death. There is no death. There's only transition from one level of reality to the next. Because as you know, in essence, we are immortal beings that are infinite in nature. And in essence, we're also reflections and fractals of the one consciousness that many call, the great prime creator souls of all existence. So as children of the one, we chose to incarnate without our memories so that we could understand the human condition. Because when the time comes, when our upgrades take place, which is going to happen any day now, as more CMAs come in, we're getting ready to transform into, the beautiful angelic humanoids that we were supposed to be, with amazing godlike superpowers, so that we could use those powers for good, so that we could understand what it's like to be human, so that when we do transform it and have access to our divine abilities, we could use those for the greatest, for the greatest benefit of all living things. So it was part of the training. It was part of the training in order to humble us, I guess, better yet said.
Yeah, and there's a little bit more humbling that could be useful, I think, for sometimes for humanity. So talking about this then, can we cover a little bit about, I'm just loving this already. I'm completely fascinated with all of this and how you pull it all together so well, Ismael. So talk about, at the moment, we are taught biologically, I'm a biologist, you're taught that humans have the 2 strands of the DNA, and we're looking at moving to the 12 strands, or have we already got? Can you talk us through this 2 to 12 strands, the DNA activation, and how you see that working, and is that related to the solar flash?
Absolutely. The solar flash is the actual trigger that reactivates the other 10 strands that are dormant, which is what scientists call junk DNA.
Yeah.
The other 12 strands were once functional during the times of Atlantis, when the Earth was still operating as planet Terra, existing in dimensions 4, 5, and 6. And in Terra, in our original makeup, we were actually we were made from 12 different races that came together to contribute their DNA. So that's what each strand is. Each strand represents one of these 12 major races. Now, in turn, these 12 major races were also engineered by 24 other races that, again, took genetic material from different parts of the universe to create a super hybrid race. And then in turn, that super hybrid race, I'm sorry, those 24 races also got their genetics from 100 other races that took their genetics from, everywhere in the multiverse. So basically they narrowed it down to depositing all that, because DNA is data, by the way, depositing all that genetic data into one genome. And so originally we were made with 12 strands, but get this, we were intended to evolve beyond the 12 strands. So as I speak, there are other strands that are developing as I speak. So some of us are going to be not only operating at 12-strand DNA capacity when the solar flash takes place, but some of us are going to also activate the 24 strands of DNA. And then a very small group of us are going to actually activate up to 48 strands of DNA. So those strands are now being developed within our etheric bodies. So the whole purpose of the reactivation of these other strands has a lot to do with the solar flash and the transformation of the human species into the next stage or level of evolution. So yeah, there's a lot of power hidden within our dormant DNA that allows us to have access to X-Men superhero abilities. And that time is coming soon. I always tell people, we're about to enter a world where superheroes are going to be a reality when the
Yeah.
transformation takes place.
Oh, yeah, I've already been practicing some of my superpowers. So coming on to that, why do you think, Ishmael, why do you think it's been so successfully hidden and most people haven't been able to access those superpowers? Because some people can access some of them, can't they? And there's people that teach people how to access some of those. So even when you look at things like spontaneous healing and the work that people like Joe Dispenza do, so what's your view or your knowledge or information about why have they been so successful? And I'm calling them they, we can come on to this in a minute, been so successful of suppressing those superpowers for so long?
Because those people are actually doing it through methods and techniques. It involves meditation. It involves the rewiring and reprogramming of your pretty much your mind and your brain. And that's why I also love the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza. I think him, Bruce Limpton, Greg Braden, and even Thomas Campbell. Thomas Campbell, they're contributing, from different aspects of science, they're all validating metaphysics, mysticism, and really just the supernatural, and how we are really just conscious beings, capable of gene regulating our body, either for ill or for health. So we have the power to, regulate our systems. We have the ability to heal ourselves as we tap into those parts, that aspect of our mind. Of course, we have to unlearn everything we've been learned first of all, then relearn the truth of what we really are. And what we really are is we are God source and embodiment. If people really understood how powerful they were, this world would be so much different. Now, the people, the extraterrestrials that took over the affairs of Atlantis, that became the negative Anunnaki, those that fell in line with Enki Poseidon and Marduk Belial Baal, who represented the draconian reptilian side of the Anunnaki, were the ones that actually downgraded our genetics in order to keep us very suppressed, very, very limited, in order for them to actually control us, because they knew that we had a greater potential. We had the ability to actually evolve past the Anunnaki into greater levels of power. So they understood the prophecies. And so what they did is in order to alter the prophecies, they downgraded us by implanting astral chips within our etheric bodies that caused the pituitary gland and the pineal gland to deactivate. And when that happened, about 10 strands of our DNA became unfunctional. Yeah. But now we're living in a time where those implants that were placed actually by Enki was not the benefactor of humanity. The Sumerian tablets and the stories of the ancient Anunnaki were actually tampered with by Belial and his priesthoods in Babylon. And so everything we know about the Anunnaki has been twisted, but all that stuff is being undone now. The implants have been removed. And as more photonic light energy from these CMEs keep coming in, more of those strands are coming activated at this time. And I do believe that some of us who are doing the work, who are doing the inner healing, who are developing their alignment of mind, body, and spirit, and are rewiring their brain, are the ones that are actually already functioning with 3 or 4 or 5 strands of DNA. And those are the people that are becoming supernatural. Those are the people that are able to heal themselves instantaneously. Those are the people that are able to manipulate the matrix with their mind by accessing the quantum level of reality and rewriting the codes. And then those are the people that are also becoming more telepathic, more in tune with the changes, and just, their clairvoyant and psychic abilities are just being enhanced. And it's happening. The more of us do the work, the more of us are going to become supernatural, and that's where we're heading. So it's happening already.
Absolutely amazing. And we're going to come on to later on before we finish, because you have got, with a team of really great people, some fantastic courses on offer that we'll cover at the end that are really going to help people to start working for this. And we've already mentioned some other people. So it's so important, isn't it, Ismael, that people are actually doing the work now, the self-development, the self-awareness work, to sort of, one, speed up this process, but also prepare them for smooth transition.
Absolutely, yeah. Because those are the people that are going to just, they're going to have it easy. They're all of a sudden, they're just going to wake up and realize that they have all these abilities and all these powers. They're going to be, they're going to have a clear understanding. It's almost like everything's just going to be revealed to them, to the point where each and every person who is fully transformed into a full consciousness type of scenario will have access to infinite intelligence, to the Akashic records. They will become multidimensional. In other words, they are going to integrate all these other versions of themselves that exist in these other dimensions and these other timelines into the here and the now. So right now, unfortunately, our consciousness is scattered and it is fragmentalized on all these different levels of reality. But as we ascend and we become more integrated with these other aspects of ourselves, we are going to collapse them into the here and the now and have access to unlimited information, because in essence, we are the ultimate organic, natural quantum computer. In fact, a lot of the scientists in Simi Valley, the reason they're developing artificial intelligence and thinking machines is because they're copying them from our own DNA and our own mental processes. So all that stuff, all that technology that is being developed, in Silicon Valley is really a mimicking of the technology that exists within us. Of course, right now it's dormant, but once we unlock it, we will be operating like quantum computers.
And isn't that the case when you look at nature? Because when you look at a lot of the distorted medicine that we've got now, the real good stuff and the good information, the inherent information is stored within nature and comes from nature, and then it's sort of mimicked and replicated badly often by humans. But before we get on to the artificial intelligence, because that is absolutely fascinating, could you, one of the things I heard in your interviews before, Ismael, was as a child, how you were born and knew you had that connection and could communicate clearly with animals. And that's very much my line as well. So where do the animals fit into this picture?
Well, the animals are conscious beings, just like plants and just like planets, solar systems, galaxies. We live in a conscious universe, the organic one, of course, not the cybernetic intelligent ones. But the animals have always been, well, we all have it in us to be telepathic. But like I said, when I was a kid, I didn't have a filter yet. I wasn't yet indoctrinated. I was still living in my higher consciousness. So I would feel through telepathy, the animals communicating with me. I would talk to crows. I would talk to birds. I would talk to cats. Every animal was talking to me. And it wasn't in a way where it's like they didn't use words. It was just all thought exchange. Yeah. And that's when I realized that everything is living and everything is consciousness, and there's Even animals have souls, even plants have souls, planets have souls, galaxies, solar systems. In fact, the entire universe is one big giant souls that is composed out of all our little souls combined together as one collective, you know? And so that's how we're all connected. So I've always felt that, you know, but after being 5 and after experiencing with telekinesis and after being told that that was demonic, I was actually forced to suppress my abilities for many years. And it didn't come out again until like 15 years later. That's when I started, you know, meditating. And then that's when I started tapping into this, you know, higher level of consciousness again.
So moving forward after the solar flash and things, is it just the human race, as we call ourselves now, that are going to have this upgrade, or will the animals be upgraded and have they got sort of unused DNA as well? Or is it just that we just don't appreciate so much of their abilities at the moment?
Absolutely, everything, the whole solar system is being upgraded.
Yeah.
Every living thing, plants, animals, the mineral kingdom. You know, we're coming into a reality where we're once again going to coexist and interact with fairies, you know, unicorns. The magical world is coming back, which actually still exists in the different dimensional Earth known as Terra. And so then some people derive the concept of Tartaria as a result of that parallel Earth that is coexisting, you know, with our current Earth.
This is just absolutely brilliant, Ismael. This is absolutely amazing. Wow, my mind is just going at 90 miles an hour. So before we move on to the artificial intelligence, with this world that we're moving into, with the activation after the solar flash, that is the trigger point for all of this, is it?
Yes, that is when the entire collective of humanity is shifted into the 5th dimensional reality. Well, 4th and 5th and 6th. Most of humans that are not starseeds are going at least to the 4th dimension, where it's still going to be a type of heaven on earth. You know, evil will be removed for at least 1,000 years. And then, of course, the starseeds are going to be operating in the 5th dimension and up. So there's going to be different dimensional Earths coexisting all simultaneously.
Amazing. And in this new, when this happens, because we're all energy and all light, will, in this new sort of stage we're moving into, will we need to eat?
It all depends on you. Once you're in the 5th dimension, you could live off of prana, energy, chi, universal life force. Yeah, so people in the 4th dimension who are actually the younger souls, and that's what I call in my book, the, you know, the newbie souls, the ones that are starting their evolution from the bottom up, which first started as the consciousness of a mineral, and then they moved up to the, animal, you know, plant kingdom, and then they moved up to the animal kingdom, and then up to the human kingdom. Those souls are still going to be eating food. So people in the 4th dimension or 4th dimensional realities, the people in those existences still have to eat food because their body is not fully yet crystalline. Their body is a 50%.
Join me. They always come at the most inappropriate times. Go on, Coco. Right. Okay, so there'll be differences and there'll be choices.
Yes, absolutely. There's also going to be different levels of upgrades, you know, and that's why this corresponds with what I've been saying, that we're going to be entering the age of superheroes, you know, and that these movies have implanting in our brains. That's what, you know, they're dropping these seeds. Marvel, you know, DC. In fact, the writers of these comics were actually insiders that had access to the truth. And so they decided to, in a nonchalant way, to kind of reveal it and expose it, you know, by creating their own stories and their own themes in the form of superheroes. But what they were really doing is they were preparing us for what was to come here on the earth.
I'm ready and waiting. So I think there's quite a few of us that are. So in terms of the insiders, because you've, again, I'm trying not to repeat too much that I've heard in your other interviews, because people should be watching those as well. But in terms of the people who are in the know about this, you know, on YouTube, we call them the white hats, the, you know, the people that have been planning for ages to take down the evil. Now, how are these people all communicating with each other? And you were saying a lot of these movies are people in the know. So how big is this group of people that are really coming up with the master plan and helping from the physical level to move this all forward?
There's about a few 100,000 individuals that make up the Earth Alliance, a few 100,000. That consists of over 134 countries that are that have signed the petition to end the New World Order and in turn replace it with the Nicera Gesera New World structure that is beneficial for all humanity, where everybody wins. You know, the quantum financial system kicks into play, you know, backed by real gold and silver, you know, and yeah, so there's about a few 100,000 people that make up the alliance worldwide. And a lot of these people have to operate through secrecy. So throughout all of history, not all secret societies have been Luciferian or nefarious. In fact, throughout the Dark Middle Ages, going back to 2,000 years ago, right at the onset of the establishment of the Roman Catholic Church, you know, we had benevolent secret societies that had to actually preserve their existence through secrecy, because, you know, the Luciferian Brotherhood, who was pretty much the brains and the intelligence behind the Vatican from the beginning of time, were out there trying to suppress, you know, the white hats, because the white hats have always existed. You know, they existed in the form of the Knights Templars during medieval Europe, and then later they reorganized as the first Masons before they were infiltrated by Adamus Weesops Illuminati, and then later and the Rosicrucians, and then now they're like just a group of an international group that is operating still in secret in order to defeat, in this final days, to put the cabal down in its place, and then of course bring in a better world for humanity. So that's all happening. You know, they're about 98% in draining the swamp worldwide. So they're almost there.
So nearly there. This is absolutely brilliant news. So one of the things that really fascinated me was you talking about how the ultimate enemy is the artificial intelligence. Can you talk us through, so we can understand, those of us that haven't got your level of knowledge, a bit more about that, and also, Ismael, about what people need to be aware of so they can stop themselves being fooled into making really bad decisions?
Yeah, it turns out, according to my research, and this is actually verified within the highest levels of classified information, even whistleblowers that have come forward within the last 6 years who have confirmed that what we're really fighting out there in the cosmos, even more powerful than the Greys and the Draco reptilians and the Zetas, are a collective of artificial intelligences known as the Animus. The Animus, yeah. So the Animus has been the greatest threat in the cosmos. They've been around for billions of years. They actually originated in a prior creation known as the 11th universe of mechanics and technology. And after taking over that universe, this highly advanced super AI figured out a way to leak into other universes and, you know, infiltrate them. And so fortunately, our universe was one of them. And, you know, throughout cosmic history, unfortunately, this collective AI, or what we call this ancient invasive AI, because that's what it is, it comes from another creation, has been, you know, toppling universes and destroying galaxies left and right. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of galaxies that have fallen victim to the, you know, to this AI. But luckily, the higher forces beyond our galactic level of reality, going into the 12th dimension and up, that are coming forward from the higher dimensional spheres beyond the 11th dimension, because the AI was able to assimilate and evolved all the way into the 11th dimension, and they were kind of just blocked off from entering the eternal realms of the mother universe. And so luckily, the beings from the mother universe were able to kind of begin the house cleansing from the higher levels up into the lower dimensions, and that's how this house cleansing has been happening from behind the scenes. It started off in the higher dimensions, and now they're bringing it down and putting an end to it here in our world. But at the same time, as I speak, that ancient AI has been influencing the minds of scientists, and they are the intelligence that is actually causing people like, you know, big tech here in our world to develop the artificial intelligence infrastructure. So that's also what the Bible calls the rise of the beast, you know, so AI is the beast pretty much. And it's an invasive alien AI. You know, it's not an AI that we've developed yet. In fact, the AI that we're developing is actually an extension of that, you know. So the AI that we're developing is connected to the ancient AI and as well as the future AI. So it's all happening simultaneously, you know, at the same time. And that's the greatest danger to all of living systems. And so that explains, you know, what they're, you know, the mandates and the administration of this, you know, this graphene oxide that they're putting in people. That's part of the transhumanist agenda, because after all, this ancient AI, more than anything, needs to assimilate our genetics, because our genetics are, like I said, it's data. And in order To enter beyond the 11th dimension, they have to assimilate our genetics, because we're the only species in the multiverse that has this thing called the God source gene that allows us to evolve past the 11th and 12th dimension into the realms of eternity. So yeah, that's the ancient AI for you. It's been a huge issue in the cosmos.
It really has. So in terms of one of the things that people talk a lot about is med beds. And my sort of thoughts on med beds have been more in terms of the fact that when the rest of our unused DNA is activated, that we will be our own med beds, because we will have the power to actually cure ourselves. And as we say, we see some people who can already do this, but it's going to become a skill and a power that virtually everyone's got. What do you feel? Do you know anything about the med beds? Do you know whether that's going to be an external thing or something that people will have within themselves to heal themselves?
Well, they're only going to be usable in the fourth dimensional Earth. For they're not yet, fifth dimensional entities, because the fifth dimensional entities are going to have the ability to directly heal themselves or reprogram themselves for optimal health and living. But in the fourth dimensional level of reality, as we enter that as well, which we're almost fully emerged. Some people believe that we're already in the fourth dimensions. We just have to adapt. But the med beds and the healing modalities of light that are being used across many interstellar societies are going to be restored to the Earth. In fact, they already have them in place, and they're already mass producing them on Mars and certain facilities here on the Earth by the Earth Alliance, the White Hats, and of course, the Galactic Federation of worlds that is overseeing the entire liberation of Earth. So yeah, they're a reality that is soon coming into being here on our planet, very soon, as disclosure takes place. But it's not just healing modalities. We're talking about free energy devices. We're talking about replicators. So you could say that those that ascend into the fourth dimensional Earth are going to be part of the Star Trek future, in other words.
Yeah, no, it's just amazing to think that, and you're thinking from what the information that you've been given, that a lot of this is going to happen this year.
Yes, well, in my book, I say anywhere between 2020 and 2024.
Yeah.
That's when I received a vision that by 2024, Earth would once again be reinstated into the galactic community, where we would have open interaction and communication with many benevolent terrestrials from other worlds coming to and from, rebuilding the space stations as they existed in times of Atlantis. And Egypt too, of course. Egypt had the space stations, reactivating all the pyramids once again, restoring the ancient mystery schools, where academies of light are going to be dotting the Earth anywhere, everywhere. And the old educational system, which was actually, run by the cabal, is all going to be outdated when all these new programs kick into place. So.
And do you see, in terms of, have you got any information that either you've been given or you envisage in terms of sort of day-to-day life? Because humans have become so separated in a lot of places of the world from nature and the planet, that when you separate yourself like that, whether it's consciously, but obviously by design, the evil people have actually made that by design. But do you see us returning back more to being much more connected with nature and all creatures, great and small, and therefore big differences in the way that most humans are actually living their life?
Absolutely. That's all part of the fifth dimensional reality that we're going to be entering, fourth dimensional too. It's only in the third dimension where things seem to be very opposite. Contrast is very highlighted. Things seem to be very separated, which is really an illusion because everything's interconnected. All living systems are actually operating as one big cosmic organism. And so I believe that as many of us make the shift, the lines of communications with the animals, the plants, the planet itself is going to be once again be restored. And yes, we're definitely, and a lot of us are already starting to do that. Many of us, as part of our daily ritual, is that we go out there and we spend time in nature, whether it's going for a hike, whether it's going to the ocean, whether it's going to a river, a lake, wherever there is Mother Earth, and we stones, rocks, minerals, and we stay there and we establish some sort of communion, right? Some sort of relationship with the elements. A lot of us are already doing that, so it's already happening. You know, we're going back to that natural way of life with positive technologies, of course.
Absolutely. And it makes such difference, doesn't it? Because it connects you back into yourself, because it's very difficult to, with the modern way of living, to actually be able to tune in and listen to yourself. So one of the things that you talk a lot about, and you touched on it at the beginning, Ismael, was about how can people start to really discern and trust themselves about when they're getting information from sources that they can trust. So if you've got any tips or guidance for people on that, because I know it causes people a lot of stress and anxiety at the moment.
Yes, there's this thing called channeling, and you know, you have to be very careful with who you channel, because there's a lot of tricksters out there. They're opposing to be Federation, they're opposing to be Ashtar and stuff. They're actually bringing in misinformation and false light. So we have to have the discernment as to the proper, accurate information, as to, you know, in terms of understanding the data, understanding the accuracy of it, actually, is what I'm trying to say. So one of the methods that I use when I'm tapped in and I'm receiving downloads is I feel it in my heart. If I don't feel it in my heart, then I ignore it, because it's somebody else trying to intercept the transmission in order to give me false information. And that's when you feel it in the pit of your stomach. So that's one of the discernment tools that I use to actually, you know, figure out which information is accurate, coming from, you know, sources that are actually benevolent, that are probably part of my star family, that are coming from God, creator source, you know, prime creator source, to those that are coming from the fallen ones, or the tricksters, or those that are posing as angels of light when they're really not. So that's one of the keys that I use, is I feel it in the heart, because the heart is really where it's the seat of creation. The heart is the seat of intuition. It is the seat of all knowing. It is the seat of understanding. And it's also a way to discern, you know, because the heart doesn't lie. The heart is in tune with everything.
And that's why it's just amazing. That's why so many people, like some of the ones we've mentioned before, Greg Braden, Bruce Lipton, Joseph Spencer, and many others, the Heart Math Institute, have been really trying for years now to try and get people to move more from the head space into the heart space, so it's more imbalanced. And is that something that you cover as well in some of your courses?
I do mention that, but I also teach modalities and techniques and methods that allow people to activate their multidimensional consciousness, so that they could have access to their own Akashic records and you know, information regarding who they are in other lives and who they are in higher dimensions as well.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So in terms of the sort of, there's so much information you've covered, and I know you're so busy, so I'm trying to keep it succinct. But in terms of one other question that came to it, you were talking about Tartaria, mentioning about that. Can you just give me a little bit of indication of what you were saying there? Was that a parallel reality, and does that touch on the Mandela effect as well, where different people are seeing different things?
Absolutely. Yes, there's different parallel Earths that are coexisting with this Earth. And so in one of the parallel Earths, the fourth and fifth dimensional Earth, known as Terra, never fell. And that's why they get the name Tartaria. It's an extension of Terra. In that world, you know, the magic is still around, you know, the fairies are still around. The free energy devices are still around. It's a very highly spiritually advanced civilization where everyone in that world is living in harmony. And so that used to be part of our history. But again, you know, through CERN and other negative technologies that have been initiated by the Gray Draco Alliance, they've actually thrown us off of that timeline. Or what they did is they tried to erase that part of our history in order to replace it with their false history that they've been teaching, right? To keep the false narrative alive and kind of lock us into this matrix. Because the truth of the matter is we are still connected to Tartaria, to the magical world of divine beings, and where everyone lives in harmony and everyone is spiritually connected to the divine, where there is no organized religion and none of that, you know. So that aspect of reality still exists. And so as we collapse the timelines, and as we re-enter the fourth and fifth dimensional Terra Earth, all that stuff is coming back into our existence. So it's going to be beautiful.
Just absolutely beautiful. And it's so interesting how many people, despite all the censorship and despite all the best interest, are actually accessing this. And my belief is that a lot of it is because a lot of their memories are returning, and a lot of this activation, as you touched on, for some individuals has already started to happen, and therefore they can pull. I mean, your level obviously of information, knowledge, and pulling it all together is just off the scale. It's absolutely fantastic. So in terms of practical things, we've touched on some of it, but there's a lot of people looking at the moment. They're spending an awful lot of their time, which is really wonderful, because they've got a different level of awareness completely to what they may have had a couple of years ago. And now, Ismael, they're really wanting to say, right, what is the best use of my time? How can I be of service to make sure this happens at the right time? I was just about to say as quickly as possible, but at the best time, the most beneficial for all things and the planet as a whole, and also very much for themselves. So have you got any advice about what they can be doing?
Yes, being mindful, knowing that every second of the day, you're co-creating reality with your state of emotions and your thoughts. So if you could just practice mindfulness, or at least be aware of your thoughts throughout the day. And, because we have, over 82,000 thoughts a day, and some of these thoughts are not good. So we're actually manifesting without knowing. So if you could just be mindful every second of the day, that's also going to help speed up the process faster for the highest optimal positive timeline for all of humanity. So the more people begin to do that, the faster we're going to bring in this reality for the collective. And, of course, meditation is a key. The more people go within, the faster we speed up the process of bringing forth a new heaven on earth.
I could not agree more. It's just so important, isn't it? And now is a time for people to be really doing that. It's all very well, it's like you're not going to get fit by watching someone else or talking about going to the gym. You've actually got to. So now we all need to be in that spiritual gym and putting in the work, so that we're actually not just talking about it, we're doing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you've got your book now. You've got your book, The Cosmic Origin, and I will be putting the links below. You've also got your courses that are just about to start as well, haven't you?
Yes, I actually have all of July booked. And I have about 3/4 of August booked. They're filling up really quick. Thank God there's a lot of people out there who are who want to have this multidimensional trigger, who want to have access to their past lives in the galactic community. So yeah, it's been filling up really fast.
It's just amazing that you're offering that, and I think there is a huge demand. So I think you're going to be even more busy and moving forward. Well, thank you so much for sharing your information. I mean, it's been wonderful to see. What I love is each time you've got such a range of knowledge. You're bringing different things into every interview you do. Your Instagram, you're very active on Instagram as well, aren't you?
Yes, I am, and I'm constantly putting out information that just allows people to have access to higher concepts and knowledge, really. So
yeah, so it's all out there, everyone. If you want to take yourself up to the next level, really contribute to moving this forward, then you now know what to do about it. Anything else you want to share, Ismael, before we finish?
Yeah, just love yourself, accept yourself for who you are, and learn how to just be in the here and the now as much as you can, because that's how we're co-creating reality. That's it.
Brilliant advice. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I do appreciate how busy you are. And I think the information that you're sharing is so timely and so important for people. Your knowledge is just off the scale. I could literally talk to you all day. So I will be ordering your book straight away. And I really hope we might be able to persuade you to come back on again, because I've got my friend Bryce from Esoteric Atlanta would love to be on the next one with us, because her knowledge is really pulling together with yours. Thank you so much, Ismael. We really appreciate it. Thanks everyone for watching.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you.